I was born sad. My mother often tells the story of how when I was a baby, I seemed to always be in a bad mood, and when people would come up to the baby carriage to say hello to me, I would just frown. And she compared that a lot to my brother, who smiled all the time. He was always giggling and he always said hello when people walked by. And I remember as I was growing up, I did feel this energy inside of me. I felt sad. I felt this heaviness. But as I was growing up, I thought that heaviness was coming from depression, that I was depressed from all the trauma that I had endured as a child. And so since I didn't know how to heal the trauma, I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know the level of trauma I had, I didn't really know what to do about this sadness or this heaviness, so I just carried on with life. Now, I wasn't always 100% sad. I did have moments of excitement in my life. I did have fun. I traveled a lot. I had fun with my friends and my family. I got married to the person I thought was the love of my life. I shared my bed with this big Great Dane that I loved so much. And I lived with a lot of material comforts and a lot of abundance. But underneath all of that, there was always this underlying current of heaviness and sadness that I didn't really know what to do with. Then in 2013, I had a profound spiritual awakening. And as soon as that happened, I remember feeling these moments of bliss and excitement and wonder. I was just so excited with life. I was so excited that I was waking up, that I was feeling the world, that my heart was cracking open. And so I had moments of so much ecstasy, so much joy, that I thought the sadness had disappeared, but it was temporary. Because as soon as I started doing YouTube videos, I spent 4 years of my life in hermit mode, just alone in solitude, starting to heal stuff and starting to let stuff come up. And the more that I did that, the more that I went deeper in my spiritual awakening, pretty soon the feelings of excitement and the feelings of joy, they couldn't drown out the sadness anymore, and the sadness and heaviness came back. It became a presence again in my life, especially since all in the spiritual awakening, when we go through a spiritual awakening, all of the stuff that needs to be healed comes up to the surface. Our entire inner world comes up to the surface. And this is especially true of old souls. An old soul like me and like you, old souls come to this planet many, many, many lifetimes. We've been down here so many lifetimes, and we've been through a lot of experiences down here, a lot of which have been painful, because old souls come to planet Earth to assist humanity and assist the planet in one way or another. So a lot of times we incarnate as healers, we incarnate as helpers, we incarnate as change makers on the planet to kind of help humanity evolve. And so in past lifetimes, it wasn't always easy being an old soul down here. As an example, it wasn't too long ago, maybe a couple 100 years ago or more, where witches were burned at the stake. And these were women that were really powerful healers, and they were doing the best that they could to help heal their community, but they were misunderstood. Their power was misunderstood, and they were deemed witches, and they were burned alive. And this is only one example of many things, painful things, that have happened to old souls down here. So not just from this lifetime, but from lifetimes before. So old souls have a lot of old material that comes up during a spiritual awakening, a lot of old and heavy material that comes up to be processed. One thing I started noticing as I entered spirituality circles after my spiritual awakening was I started noticing that a lot of people in spirituality circles, they give this appearance that they are constantly happy. It's all about light and love and fairies and unicorns. Everything is light, 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 light. And I started to be confronted by that. And seeing that side of spirituality, seeing only the light and the rainbows and the positive vibes, it was deeply confronting to me. And it led to a lot of inner judgments against myself, because I was seeing all of these things on social media. I was looking at these teachers and these spiritual influencers, and I was seeing them just share how their life was super amazing. Everything was so wonderful. Everything is so happy. And I was going through a completely different process. There were moments in my spiritual awakening where I went very, very into very deep lows. That sadness was present. That heaviness was present. It felt like I was constantly trying to measure up to these other teachers that I was seeing, and I was creating this inner judgment that, maybe I wasn't there, that if I felt this sadness, if I felt this heaviness inside of me, maybe there's something wrong with me, and maybe I wasn't ready to be a spiritual teacher. Maybe I wasn't ready to be a leader for others in the spirituality movement. There were two main reasons why I was feeling these feelings inside of spirituality once I had my spiritual awakening. The first reason is that within spirituality circles, it is still really common for teachers and influencers to present only one side of a spiritual awakening, only the light, only the fluffy part, only the unicorns and the rainbow part, only the happiness and the joy. And so if you show that to the world, what that ends up happening is that then it creates a movement where people watching these social media, people following these teachers, they feel an unconscious pressure to fragment, and they end up fragmented only towards happiness and joy and the good vibes, and they end up repressing the deeper parts of them that they may not want to show the world because they have an inner judgment towards it. So they may end up repressing sadness, grief, heaviness, because they see that that is a judgment, and it's actually, there are a lot of spirituality circles that almost deem that heavier side of your emotional life and your energy life, they deem that as not as evolved. So if you're feeling these things, there's this inner judgment that if you're not feeling love and light and all of those fluffy things, then there's something wrong with you. You're still not healed enough. You're still not evolved enough. And that still exists in spirituality circles, and it's tremendously toxic and painful, especially for old souls. The second reason is that there is still a really strong patriarchal current in spirituality movements. And what that means is that there is still a lot of areas of spirituality, a lot of currents of spirituality that focus only on you being the observer of thought. So teachers like Eckhart Tolle, there's a lot of teachers, a lot of Buddhist teachers, Zen Buddhist teachers. There's a ton of this kind of patriarchal overtone in spirituality where the focus is on you being an observer of thought, you being an observer of your emotions, and that you are not any of those emotions, you're not any of those thoughts. And what this does is this creates a tremendous amount of detachment. It creates a certain level of fragmentation, because what's happening is this is only one part of spirituality. It's how the masculine energy sees life. It's how the masculine energy positions itself in life. The masculine energy is the energy of observation. It's the energy of holding structure, but that's only one part of it. Then there's the feminine side of you. The feminine side of you is the feeler. The feminine side of you is the waves of emotion. That's also a part of you. You are also that. And so by denying that aspect, by denying that you are your emotions, by denying that you are your thoughts, you are all of it. You're the observer and you are the thoughts. You are the observer and you are also the waves of emotion that are going through you. You are the consciousness that observes. You are also the body in which these experiences occur. And if you deny a part of that, you're only living half of spirituality. You're living a really detached, emotionless type of spirituality that doesn't encompass all of existence. And so this can be very harming to people because it creates a culture of people who try to position themselves and look at their emotions and their thoughts in a totally fragmented and detached way that it's almost like they don't want to engage with them. They don't want to feel them. They don't want to be in the moment with those emotions and with those feelings. And that creates more fragmentation. And that fragmentation is also really painful for people going through a spiritual awakening, especially for old souls who have been here so many lifetimes. A lot of these lifetimes we've been through so many painful things. So we have a really complex inner world. And if we're just looking at it from this kind of, it feels a little arrogant sometimes, because it feels like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to observe everything. And I'm the observer of thought. I'm not any of the thought. I'm not any of the emotions. That's not me. It creates this kind of detachment that removes you from a huge part of what it means to be human. If I were here only to be a detached observer, I wouldn't need a body. I could just be floating consciousness without a body. That's where your observing consciousness could be. But no, we chose to come into a physical form. In choosing coming into a physical form, it means that we're here for everything. It means that we're also thought, we're also emotion, we're also our bodies, we're everything. We're the whole messiness is all us. And so for old souls, having this patriarchal current that just focuses on observation can be also really detrimental. So I struggled for a couple of years trying to find my place within a movement that had these undertones where there was fragmentation or there was excessive patriarchal belief systems in spirituality, and I didn't really know where my place was. At the time, there were moments that I felt like a bottomless pit, like there was just so much heaviness coming up, and the inner judgments were really strong. I was also coming up in front of a camera. I was doing YouTube videos. And so for me, I was also learning how to be authentic authentic. I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to be vulnerable in front of a camera. I wanted to be vulnerable with the people that I was trying to help, with the people that I was reaching out to. But there was that part of me, that heaviness and that sadness that I still felt unconsciously that I had to hide somehow. And that was really hard for me for a long time. Then one day I watched a movie that completely changed my life. It was the Pixar animation Inside Out. And I think this was in late 2015. And I remember watching that movie and I could not believe how much of a light bulb moment that was for me in understanding my inner complexities. So Inside Out tells the story of a little girl named Riley, and it tells the story of her emotions, her core emotions, and how those emotions kind of interact with each other and how her inner world, it was kind of a view of Riley's inner world and the different emotions that were present. And one of those emotions, the one that was in charge, her name was Joy. So Joy was in charge of all of the other emotions, and she was constantly trying to make everyone feel good. She was constantly trying to lighten things up, bring joy to everything. But then the other emotions sometimes weren't on board. So it was joy, anger, sadness, disgust, and fear. These were the 5 core emotions in Inside Out. And I remember one key scene between joy and sadness that really exemplified what I was doing to myself in my inner world. Joy always had a hard time dealing with sadness throughout almost the whole movie. And check out this scene. Check out what Joy does to sadness here.
What are you doing?
And there. Perfect. This is the circle of sadness. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it.
This is what I was doing in my inner world. I was constantly trying to push sadness to just stay there, stay repressed, to not express herself, to not show herself. This is what I was doing. And so that was just mind-boggling to me. And then came another scene that was totally life-changing for me in this movie too. So it was when Joy and Sadness, they were with another character in the movie, and he was really, really sad. He was having a moment of grief. And Joy kept trying to bring him out of it. She kept trying to change subjects. She kept trying to make him laugh. And that scene between Joy trying to get him out of that sadness, but then sadness coming to him, and she did something that Joy never could.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now.
You see, sadness is wise. She is compassionate. She's empathetic. She knows how to sit with someone and not want to pull them out of where they are. She can truly see someone when they are not feeling good. Joy cannot do this. And so when I saw this scene and when I saw Inside Out, I truly understood there was medicine in each of my emotions. The sadness and the heaviness that I had felt my entire life, it actually was a superpower of mine. It was a gift of mine. It was never a problem. Inside Out opened the door for me to grow as a spiritual being and as a teacher. I learned how to deep dive into sadness, to understand this emotion, to understand this state and where it came from. I learned to locate the feeling in my body, which was here in my heart. And the more that I worked on locating the feeling in my body, the more connected I became to my own body as opposed to being detached or fragmented. I learned from sadness that there was so much that this emotion could teach me, and all of the so-called negative emotions that we have, the past of these emotions is that these emotions come to you because of painful things that happened to you in the past, whether in this lifetime or lifetimes before. The more you understand what these emotions could bring you. Once I learned that, then came the miracle for me. It was understanding the gifts that sadness gave me. To help you work through your own difficult emotions, where they are located in your body and where those emotions come from and the gifts that they bring into your life, I prepared a journaling exercise for you that you could download by clicking on the link below in the description box of this video. Here's what I learned about sadness. Sadness is an emotion that brings wisdom to you. Sadness is your wisdom. because sadness comes from painful past experiences that you have had, whether it's in this lifetime or lifetimes before. So with those painful experiences comes a lot of wisdom and a lot of lessons learned, and sadness does that for you. Sadness also, it is here in the heart, and it helps you be more compassionate, connect with others. It helps you have a heart-centered connection with others. Sometimes sadness cracks you open. That's how powerful this emotion is. Sadness also allows you to have more compassion, to understand what another person is going through. It allows you to be softer. It allows you to be more open. It allows you to be more vulnerable, more connected to others. All of these things is what sadness brings to you. So sadness isn't a problem. It's not something that you should hide. It's a superpower. It has so many gifts for you. Sadness didn't make me a worse spiritual teacher or an imposter. Sadness makes me a better teacher, a better healer, because it allows me to connect with the people that I'm helping to heal and I'm helping to transform their lives. It gives me a more empathetic and compassionate connection with them. So that's what sadness does for me, and that's what sadness does for you too. All of the difficult or heavier emotions that we've been taught in some spirituality circles to repress, they are actually what make us more whole and authentic human beings. They have a lot of gifts, and they bring those gifts to us. So if we're constantly trying to push these emotions away or these energies away, we're only half complete. We're not being authentic. We're not being vulnerable. So the next time you see someone on social media or a spiritual teacher on social media only talking about love and light and fairy tales and light energy, remember that even if they're hiding it, those people feel sadness also, even if they don't show it, and that there is nothing wrong with having sadness or having grief or having heavier emotions in your life. It's part of the complexity of who you are. And the next time you listen to a spiritual teacher that's only preaching this more patriarchal current of spirituality that focuses only on being the observer, being in this detached position and not involved with your emotions, not involved with your sensations, remember, please, these teachers probably also have a lot to heal. They probably have more to heal than you think and you know, even if they do seem like they are the gurus. Because a spirituality that does not honor all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, and all of your embodied experiences as a soul, that is a spirituality that is not integrated. It's a spirituality that continues to focus on separation consciousness and on a detachment that really leads to a lot of bypassing, and it leads to a lot of pain in spirituality circles. You are all of it, old soul. You are the light emotions, you're the heavy emotions, you're the thoughts, you're the emotions. You are everything embodied in a physical body. You are much, much deeper than any superficial spirituality can teach you. And you've been here many, many lifetimes. Your joy is important and beautiful. Your inner child is beautiful and light, but your heavier emotions like sadness and grief and anger, those are also really important emotions that have a lot of gifts in them, gifts that you can give to yourself and to others and to the entire world. They are so, so important. That complexity that you are as an old soul is really important. So please do not hide it. No matter what you see on social media, no matter what you hear certain spiritual teachers teaching, do not hide the complexities of who you are, especially your heavier emotions, because these emotions have so many gifts to give to yourself and to others. And speaking of old souls, not only are our inner worlds very, very complex, but we're also not here on planet Earth to belong. Watch this video next to find out why you're not here to belong and what you're meant to do on Earth instead.
Cut! We did it! We did it!